Thank you, Speaker, and it will be of no surprise to you why I would regard this as a matter of public importance and great urgency to be before the House today. Indeed, the work that you pursue internationally, that this parliament has led around the world, where we see now 20 countries following the efforts of the Australian government to ensure the safety of children everywhere, is something to be commended and something the Australian Parliament should be incredibly proud of.
Hear, hear.
Not just that 20 countries are also looking at us to implement similar laws, but really that the Australian Parliament, at least until yesterday, and I'll come to that, had the courage to stand as a collective in a multipartisan way to ensure that we stood up to the one challenge that was asked of us by more than 120,000 families across Australia that pleaded with this parliament to show leadership, to put our differences aside, to put children first.
Hear, hear.
That was a simple ask of this parliament. And it should indeed not be beyond us to put children first. This parliament had, until yesterday, done the right thing, and that's why I stand with such utter dismay at the results of yesterday. That the coalition decided to block and delay urgent legislation that only hours before they had supported and passed through this House. They decided to block and delay that urgent legislation up in the other place. That's the very legislation that we need to hold big tech to account, to make sure that kids are not left fending for themselves against these giants that have never, ever displayed an intention to change their business model, to do the right thing, to be as has been constantly asked of them. I don't think the Prime Minister or our Minister could have made the serious nature of this any clearer. Since day one, the message to the big tech guys has been very clear. It is, if you want to conduct business in Australia, if you want to have a social platform in Australia, it comes with social responsibility. They have shown every resistance at every step of the way, and that does not surprise anyone on this side of the House, and I don't think it surprises anyone in this parliament. We knew the fight we were up for. There was never going to be an easy pathway. But we're not here to make easy decisions. We're not here to do the simple work. I chaired a committee 2 years ago in this place, a joint committee, a select committee on social media in Australian society, and it was when this parliament first started taking a serious look at the impacts that this social media was having in our communities. We took a lot of time to undertake this inquiry. We had people from across all parties, from across both houses, who heard the stories from parents about the unrelenting attacks they felt on their children. Okay? These were kids that were way too young to be making those calls for themselves about what was going to be, appropriate material online for them. These were families that begged us to ensure that we put our differences aside, as I said up front. They knew that this was going to be a challenging moment for the Australian Parliament. They knew full well. They knew the arguments they were having every day in their kitchen tables and in their lounge rooms about kids spending so much time just doom scrolling. But they also knew it wasn't the fault of their kids. They knew straight up that they were algorithms designed to do harm, that there was a business model that in fact ensured the continuity of harmful practices online. Now, I'm not going to go into all that detail, but those submissions were made. Parliamentarians heard the evidence loud and clear, and we were begged to act. And this parliament rose to that occasion. That ban on under-16s on social media was world-leading, just in the way this Australian parliament led the world on the tobacco ban, the banning of advertising on tobacco. That was not an easy decision back then. And we know what happened. We know the litigious nature of big tobacco, of big tech, and that's why this is so damn critical right now. That is why every parent in Australia is like, how can this be happening? How is it that the coalition stood here in the morning and backed this in, knowing full well we needed to give the E-Safety Commissioner powers? We needed to deliver additional powers so she could enforce the will of the Australian Parliament, the will of the Australian people. She needed that, and she is on record of exactly why that was required. So it's no surprise to anybody in this parliament. But the parents, they need us to stand up. They haven't gone away. That pain and trauma that we asked people to go through again when they gave evidence to our committees, we asked them to open up. These are parents that lost their kids. Okay? These were kids who were victims of addictive design features in social media that led to self-harm, that led to extreme levels of anxiety, depression, eating disorders, body image harm, cyberbullying, misogyny, radicalisation, mis and disinformation. None of these are things that you want your children ever to have to live with. We heard from those families. I see the member for Fisher sitting in the room, the only member of the coalition. Sorry, I am to be corrected there. But I am pleased to see his presence in this chamber because he sat on that committee. He heard that evidence firsthand, and I can only imagine what he feels right now, because we know how important it was. Member for Flinders also. You know what's at stake. So how a decision to support those extended powers that the E-Safety Commissioner has asked us, has made very, very clear she needs this to ensure that enforcement actions are taken. The doubling of those fines. These are not companies that want to see these laws enacted. Okay? We have to be up for this fight, colleagues. We have to be up for this. Australian kids are relying on us to deliver this. Australian families are relying on us to deliver for this. We have a request to strengthen that enforcement framework that underpins that social media minimum age ban, and we've got a request that we cannot deny. And yet that is exactly what happened in the other place, just hours later. What the hell happened there? That's what parents are asking today. What the hell happened there? And I'm going to quote the E-Safety Commissioner herself, because this was an office that was stood up by the former coalition government. We backed you every step of the way, but she says any delay in proposed enhancements to E-Safety powers will also delay enforcement of the social media minimum age and the improved safety protections for Australian children it is designed to provide. That is what the delay is putting at risk. I honestly cannot believe that you did this backflip in a matter of hours between this place and this place, and I don't know on what on earth happened in that time. But you've got to change your mind. You have to come back and offer that bipartisan support to put children first again.